All right. Welcome back, everyone, and happy Easter. A lot of big news to go over. First of all, I want to talk about what's happening with Elon Musk and Twitter right now, because actually, the way things are looking, frankly, Musk may have already gotten Twitter in check. They're trying to launch a poison pill. I'll explain what that exactly means. And Musk probably beat him at their game already. I'll be explaining this. Twitter, as we knew it, is dead one way or the other. Let's put it that way. Twitter, as it once was, is dead. And I'll explain why. It'll never be the same again after this in one way or the other. Also, folks, the Durham trials are about to begin. So I'll be giving some updates on the first trial, what's happening with it, and also on some of the new information coming out, such as that the CIA actually knew that the entire Trump-Russia thing was fake, but still, of course, allowed it to, deceive the entire nation and allowed it to try to undermine an entire presidency. A lot of stuff going on today. Also, we're going to be inviting a special guest, Michael Jan. He's a war photographer, war correspondent. He's currently in Panama, and he's been scouting out some, reporting trips, looking into Title 42 ending and looking into the brewing migrant caravan. So we'll have him join about halfway through. He'll be on for a bit. Then we'll go into more stories because, like I said before, we're actually doing longer episodes now. So we'll be doing an hour and a half for those of you who can stay that long. Folks, that said, happy Easter. I hope you're all well. The tea tonight, for those curious, is a Japanese sencha tea. All right. Now, you might notice my camera's a little different today. It's because I forgot my wire in the office. Those of you might remember, those of you who joined us on Wednesday, we're now doing a second episode, at least a test for now. It's going to be every Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So 10:30 in the morning, if you can join on Wednesday. So be sure to tune in again this coming Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. All right, that said, let's jump into the first story. I want to talk about Musk and Twitter and censorship and where this is all going. Because like I said, Musk basically already won. He won one way or the other. Even if the board of directors somehow doesn't get sued, even if somehow they don't get, tossed out by the shareholders, which they actually might, even if none of that happens, Elon Musk has made them all admit that they censor Twitter. And the argument now is no longer, oh, we're not censoring. What are you talking about? You're just mad that you're being censored. You're just mad that there's hate, you're spreading hate speech. The argument now is that quote unquote democracy cannot exist without censorship. And Elon Musk hit them so hard that you have actual socialists arguing for the rights of big corporations to stomp on the natural rights of the individual. You literally right now have actual socialists arguing that for a corporation to censor American citizens, on political speech or whatever, is perfectly fine. That they no longer have an issue with this. That is how hard this thing dropped on them. And that is going to change the whole debate in this country around censorship. Let me explain a bit of this. I'm going to show you a couple things, right? I'm going to show you a tweet first. This is from Max Boot. This guy is a Washington Post columnist, and funny enough, also a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Those of you are familiar with the CFR and all the things they do. Well, this is Max Boot's take on it. Again, he's also with the Washington Post. He says this: I am frightened by the impact on society and politics if Musk acquires Twitter. Now, let me explain it first. He adds, he seems to believe that on social media, anything goes. For democracy to survive, we need more content moderation, not less. Now, let's explain this, all right? Now, first of all, America is not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. You could argue it is representative democracy, where we elect representatives who then represent us on the federal level, right? Representative democracy. We do elect our representatives. They then represent us. That is how the American system works. We are not a democracy. In fact, the founding fathers believed that democracy was basically the same thing as tyranny. Those of you who want some background on this, I won't go too deep into it, right? A republic if you can keep it. Remember that? quote from Benjamin Franklin. I won't go too deep into that. Those of you who want the history on that, check out the documentary or special feature I did on America Rewritten. You can still find Epic TV. We are not a democracy, again. So first off with that, but even entertaining the idea of democracy, this guy's saying for democracy to survive, we need more content moderation, not less. Democracy, even in the ways the founding fathers viewed it, is basically mob rule. In other words, democracy is just, the tyranny of the many. It is where 51% decide that, 49% need to be taxed or hanged or something like that, then so be it. The will of the people. What protects us as well, in addition to being a representative democracy, we represent our leaders, is we're a constitutional republic, meaning, again, there's laws that even the government itself really can't change, at least not easily. Now, representative democracy, again, which would be a republic, and us being a constitutional republic, basically means that, you can't do stuff like that. Now, entertaining the idea that we're not even that we're a democracy, again, mob rule. What this guy is talking about isn't even democracy, because in democracy, you would have mob rule. In democracy, you would have people being able to say whatever the heck they wanted. That's classical liberalism. Technically what has become, modern day libertarianism, right? You can do as you want, do it. I'll do what I want, and don't tell me otherwise. Don't bother me about it. It's essentially the idea of, the classical liberal, or, what democracy would be. Now, what this guy's talking about, again, this Washington Post columnist saying that, again, I'm frightened by the impact in society and politics if Musk acquires Twitter. And he's saying the reason he's concerned about politics and society is because Musk believes anything should go, and that we need more content moderation, not less. What this guy's talking about is fascism. when you have the government working together with the private business in order to institute totalitarian policies, that is fascism. When the government is using private businesses to stomp on the rights of individuals for the sake of politics and social stability, that is fascism. This is where they've been trolled to. This is the degree to which these individuals have just basically had the reality shattered, and they're trying to make excuses on why, basically Elon Musk would be morally wrong to buy Twitter and to make it, a free speech platform. The funny thing is, though, again, they're stepping back from the basic narrative they've had, because previously the narrative was, oh, there's no censorship on Twitter, right? It went from being there's no censorship on Twitter, there's no censorship on social media, to being these platforms could not survive without censorship. And you even have them now arguing that it's not censorship if a private business does it on behalf of government, technically, which is what this is, which is, again, fascism. So this is where it is, folks. Let me show you an article here. All right, I want to show you an article real quick, just kind of showing where this is going as well. Let's open this up. One sec. This is an archive of a website. All right. Insider, right? Business Insider. It says Elon Musk's attempt to buy Twitter represents a chilling new threat. Billionaire trolls taking over social media. All right. Again, that's Business Insider. Now, let me show you a couple other links. Let's pull up the next one here. All right. Now, again, they're saying the new chilling threat, the chilling new threat. That's the exact quote from Business Insider. Billionaire trolls taking over social media. Now, do we have any major social media that are not controlled by billionaires? let me show you some here, right? This is from Digital Business World. All right, let me pull this up real quick. All right, folks, the top 10 richest social media billionaires in 2021. Most of the major social media platforms are in fact already controlled by billionaires. Now, of course, maybe the reason they're trying to write them off is because they're billionaires who represent the other side of politics, the ones that these news outlets and individuals actually want to be representing them. Mark Zuckerberg, $118 billion, at least last year, worth. Zhang Yimin of ByteDance, TikTok, $44.5 billion last year. And they're trying to argue that it's a threat if a billionaire is going to take over Twitter. trying to ignore the fact that, again, Elon Musk himself is a billionaire. This reminds you of the Supreme Court nominee who was asked again, basically, what is a woman? She says, I don't know, I'm not a biologist. And, again, the media celebrated her as the first Black woman to be, basically nominated to the Supreme Court, acknowledging that she's a woman. Now, nobody really played into that, just on a side note, and messed with her by saying, if she says, I can't, when she was asked, basically, again, this is the new Supreme Court justice, when asked basically, essentially, what is a woman? She says, I don't know, I'm not a biologist. Nobody mentioned, oh, so you're acknowledging that gender is biological. But stepping aside, this is very similar to that because, folks, we already have a Black Supreme Court justice, Clarence Thomas. And again, of course, she couldn't answer what a woman was, and they celebrated her womanhood as being, elected to do that. It's very similar to what we have going on right now with Elon Musk, because they're trying to write off the fact that, well, most people who own media, news outlets, and social media are in fact billionaires, and they're trying desperately to make this into a scandal. They're trying desperately to make it into a scandal that an actual African immigrant, you could actually technically call him an African American in terms of origin, is trying to buy up a social media. This guy is this guy's the embodiment of the American dream. And they're trying to make it a scandal that he's trying to buy media. But of course, they have no logical or logical argument for it. And so they're basically trying to defy natural logic and trying to argue that somehow the thing they're arguing people don't realize already exists everywhere, such as, again, social media being owned mostly by billionaires and trying to make it a scandal for billionaires trying to buy social media. Let me show you another one. This is from Forbes. Now, let me pull this up real quick. Now, let's argue again. Okay, fine. Social media, that's one thing. But Twitter, Twitter it's a platform, right? Now, news media companies, they're owned by billionaires as well. They're owned by billionaires. Jeff Bezos of the Washington Post, Max Boot, again, a columnist for it, the one we just mentioned a bit ago, saying it's a threat to democracy if Elon Musk buys Twitter. Max Boot writes for this news outlet under Jeff Bezos, again, the guy who owns Amazon, who's a billionaire, one of the richest men in the world, owns the Washington Post. Most of these news outlets are also owned by billionaires or giant corporations that funny enough represent the same kind of socialist agenda that's claiming to be opposed to billionaires and corporations. And people buy it. Michael Bloomberg of Bloomberg. Let me read you a quote from that article. It says this: billionaires own part or all of several of America's influential national newspapers, including the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times, in addition to magazines, local papers, and online publications. This has hit them so hard that they're trying to argue that the government now should step in and nationalize social media. Now, Twitter has tried to dodge the bullet. And essentially what the board of directors has done is the Institute of Poison Pill, which you call a poison pill, which is they made it so, well, after Elon Musk offered them a really good deal, it was double of the value. I'll get into the numbers later. I haven't written down. Elon Musk offered them the deal of the century, offering to pay more than what the shares were worth in order to buy the company and even keep the shareholders. Now, the board of directors went against that. Funny enough, Alawid bin Talal, I think it was, the Saudi billionaire, who actually I could do a whole episode on justice himself, because Alawid bin Talal was the guy who allegedly paid for Obama to go to college through a medium. I did a whole article on it years ago, and also was the guy who's, the guy he uses the medium to pay for it, was also one of the individuals who helped start the Black Panther Party. Right. Alawid bin Talal is the son of the individual in Saudi Arabia they called the Red Prince. He launched the Prince's Rebellion. That was a communist revolution in Saudi Arabia. Alawid bin Talal represents the far left of the entire Arab world, and he finances a lot of these far left movements all around the world. He's like the George Soros of the Saudi princes, basically, right? He came out and he argued, oh, it's not a good investment. Twitter's worth way more. And then it came out that Alawid bin Talal already sold his shares in Twitter. And so Elon Musk is questioning, who is this guy and what is he, how much money does, do these Saudi princes actually have in Twitter? We won't get into it. All right, folks, I want to go more into Twitter after a bit, but I want to bring on Michael Yon in just a bit. But first, we have a sponsor tonight that is Secure. Over 155 million Americans were affected by data leaks in 2020. The average American had the data stolen about 4 times over the past year. People get anxious because they can't protect their online data or their online activity. But now there's a new email and messenger app called Secure. That's Secur. They can give privacy and security for sending emails and messages. Secure's servers and data center are hosted in Switzerland. That's important because Switzerland has the strictest data privacy laws in the world. It's also the only private and secure email and messaging app that does not rely on big tech companies like Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, which also means it's not subject to the Intrusive Cloud Act. Now, Secure Messenger functions by adding people you know and then adding their secure numbers. If someone doesn't have it, just send them an invite. Now, in a way, again, you protect from hackers get into your phone, gives you some additional security. Those of you interested, it's $5 for the messenger or $10 for the email and messenger package. You can visit secure.com today for a free 7-day trial, where you can use the promo code Joshua to 25% off. All right, we're going to bring Michael Yon on in just a bit. In the meantime, let's go a bit more into what's happening with Twitter. Now, real briefly, Michael Yon, those of you know him, he's a world-famous war correspondent. So the most famous images from Iraq, Afghanistan were him. He was the guy who was like tracking down cannibals in India. Really, really quite the character. He's done some incredible work. He's a photographer mostly. He also does blogs, and he's also an investigative reporter. He's been in the Darien Gap in Latin America, really tracking what's happening with these migrant caravans. And he's going to be joining us in just a bit. Before we bring him on, though, let's go a bit in what's happening with Twitter and this whole poison pill move, and then I'll explain it. Now, briefly, folks, those of you on YouTube and on Rumble, we are going to be jumping over exclusively to Epic TV in just a bit. Those of you joining us on Epic TV, thank you for being here. Really, I mean, a ton of y'all on here. It's wonderful having y'all. It's kind of like the way Crossroads used to be back before we got crazy censored on YouTube. It's like we have a nice big group here now. Again, a lot of the folks have been around for a while, and it's really great having you on here. I always enjoy the discussion. Anyways, we'll be jumping exclusively over to Epic TV in just a bit. Those of you who don't have an Epic TV account, check out the description below the video. We're giving you a free 15-day trial, so be sure to get that, join us, and again, in just a bit, we'll be jumping over. That said, let's go a bit more to what's happening with Twitter, and then we'll bring in Michael Yon. Again, if folks have questions about what's happening in Latin America, get your questions ready. We can give a couple questions to him. Now, let me go over this. The Twitter board has approved a poison pill to try to prevent Elon from launching a hostile takeover. Because again, it looked like he was going to launch a hostile takeover. He offered to buy the company. They wouldn't take it. He can still buy up the shares and take over the company. It says here, Twitter's board of directors has approved a provision aimed at preventing a hostile takeover. They did this to stop Elon Musk from buying the company, basically, right? And it's gonna cause a lot of problem with their investors, probably, right? They launched a hostile takeover known as a poison pill. The company announced this on April 15th. The board unanimously chose to adopt the limited duration shareholder rights plan. Shareholder rights, not board of director rights, because it's technically about the board of directors, not the shareholders. They're going to have to prove in court now, very likely, whether this decision is actually in the interest of shareholders. And they're going to have a hard time doing that because, basically investment documentation was telling people to sell their shares, not buy shares. And Elon Musk just offered them a big deal that would have made them all a whole lot of money, which means they're not acting in the best interest of their shareholders, which means they can probably get sued. Let me detail this. It says this: under the approved provision, if any entity, person, or group acquires 15% or more of Twitter's outstanding stock in a transaction not approved by the board, meaning they have to approve it, other stockholders will be able to buy additional shares of common stock at a lower price. In other words, they're making it so that they can buy up shares at a lower price in order to essentially flood the shareholdings, whatever I call them, to make it more difficult for Elon Musk to get this. It's going to be really hard for them to do that. All right. That said, we're going to jump over to Epic TV. I'll go a bit more into this, then we'll bring Michael Yon on. Those of you who are not, actually, we'll bring Michael Yon on first, then we'll continue going into Twitter, and we'll get into what's happening with John Durham and some other stories as well. We'll also be doing a longer Q&A, so get your questions ready. If you want to talk about something. Again, we're jumping over to Epic TV. So again, if you don't have an account yet, go in the description below, get your 15-day free trial, and come join us. All right, folks, that said, before we jump over, I'll show you a trailer real quick. Roman Balmakov, Facts Matter. Very interesting story showing evidence that over 4 million votes may in fact have been, well, illegitimate. Let me show you a trailer now detailing what happened in the 2020 elections.
And what we were looking at was what we believe is the proof of exploitation of ballot drop boxes, the privately funded CTCL money, Mark Zuckerberg money, ballot drop boxes. You nailed it. It's exactly what the case was. I mean, from memory, we found 202, I believe, individuals who went to drop boxes more than, I believe, 10 times. And you have to forgive me because since we presented in Wisconsin, we've gone on to present in Pennsylvania and then in Arizona, so the numbers kind of run together. They were doing these things oftentimes. Most of the trips, according to our data, were actually at night. But in your example, people were watching this, and it was so blatant that it was breathtaking. And when you actually talked to, and we could only talk to a few informants, but the story was consistent.
Yeah, folks. Again, that's on Facts Matter. Full episode, full interview on that on Epic TV. Now, those of you on Epic TV yet, grab your 15-day free trial. Come join us. We're gonna bring on Michael Yon. We're gonna also do a longer Q&A, and we still need to talk about what's happening with Twitter, a bit more on that. And then I want to talk about John Durham and the trials that are about to begin right now. I'll see you on Epic TV. All right, folks. Thank you for being here. Let's bring on Michael Yon. See if we can get him on here. Hey, Michael, good seeing you, man.
I can finally see myself.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, the haircut looks good. Yeah.
I got it just for you guys.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Are you still in